In the rain.
You say, I want.
My friends that were the comical in downtown. They, pit, and they have to do the rescue dogs. And so it's pit, filled with gravel, and it's over drain. Oh, no.
Yeah, my girlfriend is. Yeah.
Cheryl. I don't know. This meeting? About just revising the. Oh, I didn't see that. What are they asking? Oh, yeah, I mean, it is supposed to be rules now. Yeah, good, you did too? Heck, yeah, I can improve it. Tonight,
Okay.
let them know who architectural rules is the right
So
thing.
tomorrow is
that's
the,
what we want.
tomorrow's the meeting?
Tomorrow's the meeting at 3. Yeah, I think you have to be there. It's just, you know, they're just going over all their edits. It's gonna be
Oh, it's
so
fine. I just have to.
Committee is, they've gone through all of the architectural rules. And they're, you know, they're editing, they're improving it, making it more readable. Yeah, so I think it's a good thing, but it's, I don't really think it's gonna be there.
I'll see what I can do. I have. Every week I have to put a house on the market now and it just. Every week? Yeah, I have 4 listings, and they're all kind of like, oh, how about next week? And okay, so it's just, it snowballs, you know what I mean? I'm okay with that, but it's, for me, it's kind of hard to juggle, you know?
Yeah, trying to understand.
I'm good. Good for you. Yeah, right. Right. Hi, Jackie.
How you doing? Tell Sally I said hi.
Susan is not going to be able to attend on Zoom. She's sick. But we'll,
So we can actually have.
You could talk.
right, she's in bed. Yeah.
I feel fine.
You're still good. Good. Hi, Peter.
Hi, Peter.
So Bill Bizarre will probably be on Zoom, and she actually had said in an email to me that he would be able to better speak to the meeting that they had Monday. Because the minutes that are in your packet are from last month, and she said a thing. So, but Will was the one presiding over Mondays.
I have thought the last story is part of.
Yeah. I think the door open, but that might be the next one. Actually, let me talk to the door.
It's crazy hot.
I don't even keep my house this warm.
Well, it's coming from right there.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. Oh, thank you. Oh, no. Okay. Got it. I'm gonna pass out in that heat.
I'm so sorry. I don't know why it's so.
Need my personal fan in here.
I'm surprised to see so many people there.
That's a nice day.
Oh, should I sign this now? That was the one for Paul Reeves. Sorry about that, I didn't put ready earlier. He's such a hard worker. I always feel like I end up with some kind of glitch on his invoices and it's like, oh, you're the one person I want to make sure. gets
I
paid
know,
right.
it's
And
so
that's
good.
always That is the thing that happened.
Oh, Ashley.
Would you like the gavel? No, here. Okay. Use the microphone, you're loud. So you mind? Got your pets?
I know. Apparently it's part of the new thing, when people know who we are.
There are 9. Well, 8 or number 9.
I ran out of envelopes. Well, I don't know where they are. Like I couldn't buy envelopes. And it's like they have this like big package
Oh.
and it's like.
You're so far away from me.
Oh. Well, you're sweet down your house.
Yeah, I know.
Comment when the subject comes up or only during the.
During homework for.
Only.
Yeah, I would appreciate that.
Yeah, okay.
Almost too warm in here.
Well, no, you just turn it down.
Okay. I mean, compared to outside,
I know.
especially, it's like,
And you know, I'm wearing a blue sweater too.
oh, I
Like,
wore the white one thinking it'd be. And I wore my jacket in, it's warm, and then I sweater and it's like, wait a minute.
Are we good?
I'm all good. We have one more minute, but, oh, no, 6 o'clock.
Good evening, everybody. Can you hear me? Okay. It is 6 o'clock. Let's start the meeting. My name is Marcus Danscher, and I'm currently the board president.
And I'm Cheryl Nelson. I'm the Vice President and Secretary of this policy board.
I'm Jackie Gorbatus and I'm the treasurer.
I'm Ashley Tongaros and I'm the nothing or the member at large.
Right. Thank you, everybody, for attending. First things first here. This is a business meeting open to members of the Nepenthe Association and guests of the board. The Nepenthe Board of Directors is a policy board, and the role of the general manager is to oversee the day-to-day operations. The primary purpose of the meeting is to ensure that the association is meeting its responsibility to provide oversight, maintain the value of the property, and to serve homeowners. The board has 2 announcements to make. The research study calls for paving the tennis courts on Commons Drive and Elmhurst Circle this year. The board is tasking volunteers Peter Klein, Christina George, and Suzanne Timmer with looking at all of our sports courts and making recommendations. Their scope will include reviewing the recommendations from tennis court specialists and looking at appropriate furniture, landscaping, screening, and cleaning equipment for the courts. They will also be asked to look at feasibility of alternate uses for the Elmhurst courts. We anticipate appointing them and receiving their report at the April 5th open session. Second announcement is we also noted that some homeowners may have received an email survey about Nepenthe from a Sally Smith. We want the community to know that there is no one in this association named Sally Smith and that the survey did not come from the association. If you were concerned about the email, it is recommended that you block the sender. Next is executive session acknowledgement announcement. The board met in executive session on February 6th and March 1st.
Hey, Marcus, it says here announcements from the board. Those are not messages from me. So this wasn't discussed with me. So I'm going to point it out right now that I don't know where all this came from, and there's a lot of changes. And some of these things we haven't discussed. So, if you want to tell people that you're unilaterally deciding some of these things, then you can do so right now, but we didn't discuss this.
All right, thank you, Ashley. Executive session acknowledgement announcement. I'm repeating myself. The board met in executive session on February 6th and March 1st. The agenda items had to do with contract negotiations related to landscape, member discipline, and delinquencies.
I just want to remind you, per civil code, that landscape is, not a protected item. If it's a contract negotiation, that's one thing. But your mention of landscape is something that's new to everyone. So maybe you should take some time to explain what that means to everyone, that we're no longer going to be, I'm not going to say what it is because, obviously I'm under scrutiny for sharing things, potentially from executive session. So why don't you tell everyone right now what that is?
Is what?
Well, you were saying executive session involves landscape. That's not
This will be up-
anything ever, that
This will be
John
on the
mentioned.
agenda for next month, what we have discussed this afternoon. Okay. Reports, construction manager reports. Paul Reeves has submitted a comprehensive report. Do any of the directors have any comments on that?
We can't understand what you're saying with your microphone.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. The construction manager report. Paul Reeves has submitted a comprehensive report. I asked if any of the directors has any comments on that.
No. No.
No, the report seems pretty thorough.
Okay, thank you. General manager report. Do any of the directors have comments or questions about the manager's report?
No, I don't.
Okay, thank you. Committee updates. I saw ARC, I saw Alan Waters somewhere. Alan?
Good evening. I am Alan Waters, Chair of the Architectural Committee, and I wanted to amplify about one application that's before you this evening for approval. It's the one for an electrically powered retractable awning. I forgot to include in my write-up of that application that the product is the same awning and same motor type as has been approved in the three or four previous approvals for retractable awning, as indeed is the contractor, Goodwin Cole. So it's a very familiar product and familiar installation to Nepenthe. Other than that, I will just say that the committee had its second estoppel inspection with support from the general manager who was present, and that went well. And we also found damage at the bottom of the siding from probably mulch or dirt or something being too high, as I think board members will know is kind of common around the area. And we're also working on updating and re-editing the master list of architectural improvements that require applications. And we're having a meeting tomorrow on that. So we hope to have the final one in front of the board, I hope, maybe at its meeting next month. Any questions from any of the members of the board?
I did see your email with my name on it. I haven't had a chance to respond yet. I think Ken Luttrell actually sent the email out, but I appreciate it. I'll see you tomorrow at the meeting.
Oh, you're going to be there. Thank you very much, Marcus.
Okay, so is this my opportunity to make some comments about the committee meeting minutes? Yes or no? I just want to make sure that from my understanding that some of the finance committee meeting the members of the finance committee didn't receive the minutes, the opportunity to make some edits, and they didn't get the invite. But just in looking at this, I do think that the board really ought to ensure that the invoices, for them to do their job and ensure that our financials are correct. And the accounting controls really should be that they ought to be looking at these invoices. It's a basic, if we were to ever do an audit, that's the type of feedback that we would get, is that not just the two board members reviewing it, but they also need those invoices for the checks and balances to see that, what we are paying out is, correct. And, and I don't see, I was at the finance committee meeting this month, and I didn't see the type of level of cooperation that I was expecting between landscape and finance. And I think Christina's tracker is quite good. And I'm hoping to see some more, collaboration toward that end.
Ashley, I don't see anything in the minutes.
Oh, it's not in the
asking-
minutes. I was at the meeting this last month. This is just a comment.
Actually, I haven't even had a chance to ask the finance chair for her report yet. So
Well, I think, Cheryl and I were the only board members at the last meeting. There've been quite a few of us absent from the finance committee meeting. You can look at this and kind of see that
well,
the
it's a committee meeting and.
Well, I know, but the treasurer ought to be there for one thing, and there's, quite a few people that aren't listed here. But anyway, it's just a comment. I'm hoping that, that going forward, that, the finance committee gets the invoices, and also that all of our financials be posted every month, given what's been going on.
Ashley, I'm reading these and I don't see any request from the finance committee for the invoices.
Well, it's basic accounting controls,
Well, are you part of the finance committee?
You are part of the finance committee? I didn't know that.
I know, I'm asking you if you are.
No, I'm
would
not, but
like-
as a board member, I attend the meetings because I want to know what's going on, and I see some weakness, as I've commented before, in the accounting controls. And
Do you receive the financials every month?
Well-
Every transaction is in those financials.
Well, the
Nothing's
transaction is, but
hidden.
you need the backup invoice to know what it was spent on. Because, there could be fraud if we don't know, what exactly. And then also, I mean, as you know, I have found errors in Carson invoices where they didn't add up things right.
Okay,
And
Ashley,
so it needs that level of
let's-
oversight.
hold off on this. Let's get
Okay.
from the finance. I think Susan Timber is not here today. I heard Bill Wizard is gonna give us a report.
Yeah. Apparently I'm the one that's here. First thing I'll tell you, Marcus, is there's something wrong with your mic. And it's breaking up badly. So those on,
Okay, I
on
just
Zoom.
changed.
Oh,
I
now
changed the mic.
now it sounds good.
All right, okay, thanks for letting me know.
Okay. Finance met, this week. And, chair is out of town, so, I substituted as chair. The first thing we addressed was this question of the monitoring the siding project and trying to calculate. I've met with Paul and trying to calculate the proportion of siding that's being replaced. This issue was brought up about invoices. Frankly, that's a substantial change in the role of the finance committee. It has not been an audit committee to this point. That would be, and it could be, but that would be a different role than finance. It's taken a macro view and not a view of auditing each expenditure by management or the board. I mean, the board is the ultimate decider on authorization of expenditures. So if that change in the role of the finance committee is contemplated, that's something that ought to be discussed with the finance committee and the board, and you'd have to redraft the mandate for the finance committee.
You
Beyond
wouldn't have
that,
to redraft it. It says in there on direction of the board, but it's basic accounting controls. If we were to do an audit, that would probably most likely be one of the recommendations of the auditor. I used to be an auditor, so I know.
the finance committee is not an audit committee though. If it's to become an audit committee, that's a decision to be made by the board. In addition to that, we reviewed the reserve expenditures, and the reserve tracker. The reserve tracker is now in a form that we like, but still is not automated in such a way that Betsy can populate the field and have it work its way entirely across the spreadsheet. So that still needs to be done. It has been simplified to the point that it simply tells you how much was proposed for this year's expenditures on a particular line item, how much is obligated and how much has been spent, and therefore how much is left, which is, it seems to me, for the board in particular, that's what the board needs to know, because they need to know what kind of financial condition they're in. But finance obviously needs to stay on top of that and draw the board's attention to anything that looks like it's getting out of the range of what we can handle. So there's a limited amount on the minutes. The minutes will be drafted and submitted to the board, but it's only been 2 days, so they aren't in yet, or they aren't to you folks yet. In fact, they haven't even been approved.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Will.
You know,
Gra-
but you did register that I met with Paul the other day, and Paul has requested that he get the architectural drawings, and he can scan those, and he thinks he can estimate the total population of T111 siding. And from that, we can extrapolate what percentage is being replaced and then go to Browning to modify the reserve study. So he's got those drawings. I haven't heard any feedback from him since then.
Okay, but that's exactly what we actually wanted, and I appreciate you supporting us on this. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you. When he does an updated, reserve analysis, I think, even that, even though it is a nice offset, it's really not going to solve the problem of that we've overspent on landscaping and the siding, and the paint is way over, and that we possibly, if he were to rerun it, we might be looking toward an assessment or at least a larger increase in dues. So I just want to warn everyone of that right now.
Thank you, Ashley. Grounds Committee, Christina.
Thank you. I guess this is working. I have nothing further to add to the minutes, but I just want to confirm with the board that what I've stated in the minutes about zone walks, and that we are to concentrate at our zone walks on documenting landscape deficiencies and in 2023, and work would only happen in 2024 and beyond. So I just want to make sure, is that the board's policy? Is that accurate? Is that how the That board wants us is to the move forward? plan at this point, as my understanding. The only difference would be if we end up at the latter parts of 2023 and we have money that's available, then we would certainly take a look at the deficiencies to see what's the top priority of those that we've collected. But part of it is that we need this to be more accurate in our budget or our setting up for the Browning study for our reserves for the 2024.
Okay.
I
so
think that Paul Reeves, he's going to be doing an estimate for us the next go around, hopefully. And I think it's going to be rather accurate. I think we'll have a better idea after that.
What does that have to do with the
Well,
walks?
how much money we have left? You know,
Well,
the
that will
paint
depend.
sightings.
I thought
phase
it was
two.
depending on what the storm remediation
No,
is
it's
going to
bigger
be.
than that. I think it's the paint and siding being over budget and.
Well,
the
I'm just
storm.
concentrating on the grounds right now. I can't go into that section. I just want to know for the grounds committee. So we're looking at is in 2023 to document landscape deficiencies. Are we going, do you want that to be based on the ranking plan? Yes, the ranking plan, and we will give priority to drainage issues, something that needs essential care right now. Yes, but drainage issues right now are ongoing. That's correct. So really the next step one was about maintenance, lowering maintenance and water costs. Correct. Those are the A and B rankings. So what about the other items? Do we document those landscape deficiencies as well? Yes, if you can accumulate all of the deficiencies that are identified by the stewards, then the board has enough information to be able to help us with our planning in the Browning study for reserves. Okay, so our first zone walk will be on Friday, zone 2, so we can that'll be our first attempt at doing this. Correct. Okay.
I have a question
Yes.
about the zone walks. I think you guys canceled a couple of zones
We
walks.
pretty much canceled all of them except
Because
for
of-
one with zone 4, but that was because there was the irrigation balancing project was, we were thinking
if
that was
you-
happening then.
If you cancel one of them, are you guys gonna wait for another
No, the zone
gazillion months?
stewards want to just add on the
Okay,
ones that were
all right,
canceled. Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah, we will continue. My understanding and our request would be to use the subsets of each zone. Yes. And walk those in rotation. And when we miss one, combine to the two. Okay, but I just wanted to ensure that this was the board policy and we're sticking with that, is it? Yes, that's how it is. Okay, great. That's all I had to
All right,
ask.
thank
Okay,
you very
thank you.
much. ILS, I saw Jerry Dunn. First of all, Jerry, give me a second. Kudos to the entire ILS committee for an amazing homeowners forum. I think the guests that were invited, plus Tina Keel, everybody did an excellent job, and I think there were not many questions unanswered after that evening. So thank you very much for putting that on.
Thank you. All we had to report was, I'm sorry, all that we had to report was we were working on the meeting the 2 days before that, and nothing else was discussed at our meeting. So thank you very much for the compliment. Everybody put in a lot of work. Thanks.
Thank you. Now, outreach committee, I did see Marcy. Well, also kudos to the outreach committee. I heard that bingo night was a blast, and Joan Roberts apparently did a fantastic job.
She did.
So
She was the comic of the evening. We did have about 40 people show up. We had a great time. Sorry you guys missed it if you weren't there. Ooh, I got vibes. Okay, let's try this again. Still getting them. Anybody else have their microphone on?
Well, it could be just that we're kind of close. Microphones are over there. Maybe if you step over. Yeah, okay. Let's try that. This is all new.
This is all, okay. I can only see the back of your heads from where I am. Just a comment. So anyway, we did have a great success on the bingo. What's coming up is in April, the 22nd, we're going to have a parking lot sale. So you guys save all the stuff up in your garage that you'd like to sell to your neighbors. And make sure you don't go home with an empty trunk. And then we have on the schedule a jazz by the pool for June 25th. That's a Sunday, so put that on your schedule. And that's about all we're doing right now.
all right, well, thank you very much. All right, now we are coming to our first homeowner forum. If anybody would like to speak, come on forward to the microphones. and introduce yourself. Please be on point and concise. Thank you.
Can you hear me all right? It's coming through okay? A little closer? How's that? Better? Okay. First of all, thank you for tonight. My name is John Apostle. I'm the homeowner at 505 Elmhurst. And I just want to say thank you to Betsy for forwarding my email question to the Nepenthe attorney. In reviewing Mr. Epstein's response, I have a few concerns, and he opined on the following two issues. Number one, section 6.6, parent D, duties of the treasurer does not specify the scope of an audit. And number two, the scope of an audit within the reasonable discretion of the board of directors, and the board has determined the scope of an audit is the same as an annual review. Well, I have a couple of concerns here, which are three. Sure. All right. Okay. I have three concerns regarding this response. One, an audit and a financial review are not the same in terms of the rigor required in each instance. Anybody can do a Google search and find out that a financial audit and a financial review are entirely different animals. A financial audit is more rigorous versus a financial review. The bylaws clearly state the treasurer is obligated to complete an annual audit, and the board to equate an audit with a financial review, I believe, is short-sighted and lacks transparency. In reading the email traffic from the board in December, I understood the financial considerations ruled out the need for an audit. When did the board make this determination that a financial audit was the same as a financial review? Was it documented in the minutes, either in executive committee or in open board meeting? In addition, some of these issues also come up tonight was sitting here in the past two meetings, I've heard we're going to be spending millions and millions of dollars on the siding, painting, and fencing repairs, as well as the damage that was done during the recent storms. You know, this is a multi-million-dollar organization. This is not a local PTA or a mother's club. And I really feel that given some of the comments I've heard tonight, I don't have a good feeling with respect to just kind of what's going on here with our dollars. And I just want to ask the board tonight, are we going to be looking at an audit, at an assessment like we did back in 2007 and 2008? Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Carol Duke raised her hand. Oh, wait.
I'm Steve Huffman. I live at 1425 Commons, and I'm also I just want you to know I live next door to Nancy Cochran, who's just to the south of me. When you get to the homeowner correspondence, you'll see her letter, and there's some photos attached, and it shows the horrible state of the area between our residences and the street. And it gives you an idea how bad things can be. And this isn't a drainage issue, so I'm told we're in for a long wait before we get any relief. There are places in the community that look this bad, but none look worse. So, you know, we want to make sure you're aware of the situation. And then we also are thinking if we get relief in 2024, when in 2024? If it's late, it could be 2 years off. So take a good look at those photos, please.
Thank you, Steve.
Hello, I am Nancy Cochran. I live at 1427 Commons, right next to Steve. The area in front of my home and Steve's home, and then our neighbors to just to the left of Steve, the Haldemans, that entire area has been deplorable for at least 2 years. It has just gotten worse, and we have been asking the board for relief, remediation, renovation, anything to make this dirt pile look like the rest of this community. You just upped our dues, and still we have no relief. We are somewhere in the list, and I don't know if we're on the subset of A or B, or we're number 1 or number 2. But when I corresponded with Betsy, and she told me that the projects for 2023 may be bumped out. We're talking about February of 2023 to possibly December of 2024. We are talking about an almost 24-month period of time where we, not you all, we will have to live with the dirt pile, the dead and dying ivy. The homeowners will let their dogs dig in that dirt pile and spread the dirt all over the sidewalk. It's really it's really reprehensible. It does not reflect why any of us moved to Nepenthe. It does not reflect what we expect from the amount of money that we pay for dues. And I urge all of you to come by and look at what we have to put up with. And it's not just us looking out our windows, it's anyone who's in this community. And it's also anyone that comes to visit us. Oh, you live here? This is your front yard. Yeah, this is it. This dirt pile with those 3 patches of dead, straggly ivy. That's my front yard, and Steve's, and Bill and Anna's. And I get it. There's a lot of money that's been in an outflow. There's been a lot of money that's been paid out. But how long do we have to wait? How long? Because at first we had to wait because the redwood tree in front of my house was supposed to be cut down because the arborist from Carson said that it was a danger and it was sick and it was diseased and it had beetle bark. But unfortunately, the arborist from the city of Sacramento said, no, it does not have to be taken out. So is that an automatic standstill? Do we now just have to wait until that tree is taken out before the fronts of our homes can be remediated? And if that's the case, how long is that going to take? So it's horrible. It looks terrible. We keep asking, we keep being told, no, we have to wait. So I guess now the question is, how long? How long do you expect us to pay you almost $600 a month? And how long do we have to wait?
Thank you, Nancy.
I think somebody online, and there's another homeowner here. Mary Gray would like to speak.
Okay. Oh. What was that?
Hi, everyone. I'm Mary Gray. I'm a member of the Finance Committee. And I'm here as a homeowner and also as a member of the Finance Committee. First of all, I did miss having the treasurer at the meeting, but she did not get the notice. And so I don't think any blame or anything should be laid there. But I would have liked to have seen her. I really do appreciate her input and all of that. Also, in another error, I was not given the minutes and other things to look over from the last meeting that I was unfortunately not able to attend. So I wasn't able to give any corrections to the minutes. And one thing that bothered me the most was a total amount spent on landscaping last year was listed as $671,821. That's one item. That is not maintenance. That is not trees. That is not irrigation. The number is inaccurate. And I just want the board to be aware of that since that's in your minutes as the complete expenditure. Another thing was we are now paying $202,707.63 to our reserves. However, only $187,820 went in. The budget is $187,620 per month. It says the reserve contribution right here of 202. What does the budget say? What is under budget? I'm reading under revenue. I'm reading under revenue contribution.
And I'm reading the revenue contribution is different because there is a variance. So I don't understand that. So Jackie wasn't there for me to talk with. I will look forward to chatting with her about that since I don't get that. So those are just my notes from the last meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary.
This is Richard Johnson, 2322 Swarthmore, and I want to give a compliment to Marcus. We had a leak in our garage. He came down, analyzed it, got Mike of the committee and the siding committee involved, and they solved it. Marcus and Mike did a great job.
Thank you. Just to clarify, it was not me. It's our handyman, Marcus, okay? So don't call me for any leaks. Correct. Marcus with a C. Anybody else? All right, let's move on to homeowner correspondence. Did all of the directors have a chance to read the homeowners correspondence?
Yes, I do
Had
have
my
a-
hand up since the beginning,
Oh,
but I don't think anyone is checking the notes or.
I'm sorry, Carol. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Hands up on the screen. This is Carol Duke. And I feel earlier about the finance committee. I wouldn't think anyone is asking for it to be called an audit committee. It's in fact an oversight committee. As an oversight committee, it should be any finance committee's job to review everything associated with the finances and give suggestions to the board. Without reviewing all of the processes and all of the invoices, they're not going to know if all of the processes are actually being followed in an appropriate way. See the invoices for expenses individually. They don't know that our contracted staff has made any error along the way in putting them in or adding them up or anything else. But it really is an oversight committee, and it really needs to give suggestions to the board that things are being done correctly or not correctly, that there are other things that should be being done, giving you scenario planning, ideas, and suggestions as well.
And Carol is a CPA, I think, aren't you, Carol?
Thank you. Thank you, Carol. All right, back to the homeowners correspondence.
I'd like
You
to
have
make a
something to say?
comment if I could. I certainly understand the concerns of Nancy and Steve. I'd like to give some background. I'd like to give some background so that, because there are issues involved. Several policies come into play in what's happening on commons and in other spots within Nepenthe. One, we have a policy, we have a vision document that was adopted in 2014 that's very clear that we don't plant any longer under redwood trees because plants don't survive there. But the board also in the past, and this has been through several boards, it's not just this board, made a plan and a commitment that when we remove a tree, we also include remediation. Remediation means that we go in and replace the tree or do what we need to. In the distant past, sometimes trees came out and it took a year or two before something was done to clean up or straighten out the area. We've accepted also a grounds ranking system where we look at work that needs to be done, and there's a priority of A, B, C, D assigned to it. These issues are all part of looking at any work that needs to be done. Last year, our arborist did find that the redwood tree out there was diseased. We had a proposal. The proposal was to remove the tree and remediate the area. That doesn't mean all planting in there, but do something so that it conformed to the vision statement of the 2014. The city arborist has the right to say yes or no to any removal of a protected tree. They agreed with our arborist that there was a disease in that redwood and that yes, sometime it may need to come out, but they would not give permission at that time. They were saying perhaps 6 to 12 months watching that tree. We have looked at it. We know the work is there. There are several areas around Nepenthe who have issues with the redwood trees. This year, because of the storm damage, everything that we would have planned to do work to come in and clean up where we could is being deferred. We don't know when that tree will be approved. If we were to this location right now and said, let's clean it up, let's make it look nice, the ranking system would have it as a very low priority because it's cosmetic. And we're focusing on shrub removal, we're focusing on damage, saving water. Those things are our A and B process. So at this point, if we were to make an exception and go in and clean up that area, pull out the ivy and put something down that's compatible under the redwood trees, we'd do it now. But when we know that tree comes out, we'd have to at least do part of it over again once we pulled out the tree. So at this point, we're waiting for the city and our tree people check and look into this situation. They talk to that arborist. We don't know when it's going to happen, but that's the situation that regarding the area on commons and the redwood trees.
Since you got to make a comment, I'll make a comment. So, you know, I don't disagree with Cheryl, and it's kind of a catch-22 situation with the tree removal, and given all the trees that have come down on people's houses, maybe they'll take a different look. I mean, I myself would be kind of worried living that close to a tree, but perhaps, you know, I would move that we get a proposal on it because, you know, you brought up something very important in your letter, which was zone 1. You know, why did you guys spend 63,000 over there? And what about me? And, you know, I think we would have had more bang for our buck. You're kind of on the face of our community where people drive in. I know some people think it's kind of an equity issue where, you know, people in the little alleys and whatnot, but it's sort of something that everyone gets to see when they drive in. I live right on Vanderbilt where everyone drives by, and my front yard's atrocious too. So I'm very understanding. But, you know, with that, maybe there'd be a simple solution as far as some rocks and maybe asparagus fern that might, you know, be cost effective, maybe $600, you know, I don't know, but maybe there's some ideas Carson has in the interim, but you know, I am sympathetic. So.
Question regarding this tree. How often is this tree being checked? Are they coming out on a regular basis, or do we have to call them out? How does that work?
Paul Dubois does a regular tree walk. He takes.
And this with the city?
No, he is with Grove, the company that we're contracted with. I don't know when is next. I've seen email and I can't remember. I think he's planning one soon to do another tree review where he will go through the trees. And with that, he makes his recommendations and would be checking with the city.
All right. Thank you very much. Any other questions from the board? All right. Let's move on to the consent calendar. Is there a motion to approve the consent calendar?
I motion to approve the consent calendar.
And I'll second.
All right. That's it. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Next is a new business, and it's all about Will Wizard today. I asked Will Wizard personally if he would be willing to help us out on an ad hoc committee regarding the siding. Given the homeowner Will Wizard's prior work on evaluating siding options and his years of service during the last siding and paint cycle, in addition to his current service on the Finance Committee. The board will appoint Mr. Wizard to monitor, review, and make recommendations concerning the current cycle. It is anticipated that Mr. Wizard will be able to provide projections related to the length of the siding cycle in the future. I would like to make the motion to appoint Will Wizard.
I'll second.
All right, thank you very much. Now we're coming to the second homeowner forum.
Ask the people online first.
Yes, how about this time, the people online first?
Unmute yourself. You can go ahead and unmute yourself if you'd like to address the board and you're on the Zoom call, please. Guess not.
All right, anybody in the audience?
Betsy, would you show the photos that we submitted? It should be just after page 67 in the packet.
Zarina, do you mind going back to those letters? Or go directly to page 70 using your slider, not these ones, but in the packet.
I think this situation is terrible, especially considering that some homeowners would be willing to pay for it themselves. And that the
You're
landscape.
fine. Go to the Adobe document. Oh, wait. The mouse, okay. It's probably because there's a lot of people. Okay, Steve, is that what you wanted to see? Yes.
Thank you.
Lots of ugly here, unfortunately.
I'm the zone steward for this area, one of the zone stewards, and we did put this on there a few months back. And then we tied them all together because you can clearly see all along there that it's pretty bad. And I understand what happens with the city, but there should be something we should be able to do about this, even if it's a small amount. Thank you.
Thank you, Nina. Anybody else?
Yes, Marcus? What was
Yes, Will, yes.
I'd like to ask Tara if she's still on, since she's the CPA on the Finance Committee, to explain, let me say first that I was on finance before I went on the board, and I remember when the decision was made to go to not to do a full audit, there is a significant cost difference to Nepenthe. But I'd like, if Tara's still on, to explain, there seems to be some belief that if there were an audit, it would change where the expenditures are going. And to explain what the role of the audit would actually, a role of an audit would actually be.
I'm on.
Okay, I'll surrender to you.
Okay, and I'm happy to go ahead and put together something for the board for next month to explain what the differences are. What I am hearing is that there is a concern that either assets are misappropriated, which is being used as the word fraud, or that there are miscalculations. What the individuals that are requesting this is they're asking for a special engagement, which is basically to seek out and find where there are irregularities in the finances or accounting or a lack of control. From what I have seen, unless I'm wrong, the CPA that is coming in and doing the review of the year-end financial statements, they will do sampling. They will test the controls, which is what they are doing in their audit. And I can look at the detail on that, but what everyone is proposing, or what individuals are proposing, is going to be a significant cost to the HOA. If that's something they wish to pursue, then I just want individuals to be transparent on that. So beyond that, as far as the request to have the finance committee look at all of the invoices to review for accuracy, categorization, that would require a significant amount of work. That would actually be something that probably is not really under the purview of the finance committee as well. But the difference between an audit, a review, and then a special engagement to review for fraud are all very, very different things.
Tara, I just thank you for your response. I agree with what you're saying, other than I don't think it would take very much time. I think what's been in question has been the landscaping invoices. I myself have found a few errors. Carson paid us back, but I mean, it's $2,500 here, $2,500 there. And I think at the end of the day, you know, it can make a meaningful difference. And, you know, I just feel like it just needs another layer of oversight. And unfortunately, there were quite a few irregularities. I'd be happy to spend some time with you, but to talk to you about the work orders and the level of spending, it wasn't just the difference between the 2,500 and 2,800. It was a very careful, you know, the 2,500 was spent on the same property 3 different times, and there was invoice staggering. So, I mean, it's very irregular, and I'm very concerned. And I mean, I'm faced with legal consequences. I have Nepenthe's attorney on me, and, you know, it's that we're spending HOA money going after me to, you know, be involved with this cover up, and
That's not
I'm
the
sick of
case.
it.
Ashley,
Well,
that's not the case.
You can
The
disagree, but
$2,500 is- we recognize that. Well, it was
okay,
brought
but you
to
spent
our.
it 3 different
let me-
times in
may I
January,
finish?
February, March.
May I finish what I'm saying? It was brought to our attention and it was immediately stopped. It hasn't happened since then, and it's not going to happen again. So we acknowledge that it happened. What's an audit
Well,
going to,
maybe
wait,
maybe
let me
okay.
finish, please.
All right.
What's an audit going to prove except what I just said?
For
So
service ought to pay us back.
for
You
what?
know, it was
And I've got
approved
Andy
by the
here.
board
Maybe
too,
Andy
right?
could respond to this.
The invoices were reviewed and
Weren't reviewed.
the propo-
And
that
you
is
know,
the
that was
board
very,
requirement for approval of an invoice and for payment for services. It was approved by the board that also set up the policy for the $2,500. Therefore, they approved and either accepted that 2,800 was acceptable, but it was assigned and approved by board directors.
so you're telling me, Cheryl, that whole alleyways were done with, you know, that Betsy put in all these different separate, like it was a labyrinth of work orders under $2,500, that these were homeowner requests? You're telling me, can you tell me? Why
They
don't you guys all tell me right now that that's what we authorized Betsy to do, was to create projects? Those are supposed to go before the board.
Betsy, did you want to make a comment? No. The authorization was for the manager to be able to write.
Yeah, this was for
and-
homeowner requests.
and
Again.
That's fine.
This was authorization, again, a different board. The board was John Baker, Marcus, Mary Gray.
No, you were there too. And
I
we
was-
had
Oh,
the
it was,
chance
it
to
was
reach out.
before then.
We could have asked to get paid back for this, and none of you guys did it.
Paid back for landscaping work that has been done. That's not the problem. Projects, work, whatever, whatever semantics you want to use. However, we've told you, we recognize the issue when it was brought to our attention by Nina, and it was stopped immediately. So I don't know what kind of an audit, what's an audit going to prove? Something that we've already said, yes, it happened, and yes, it's not going to happen again.
several things
Okay,
caused this
well,
problem and.
Yeah, so you think the new policy, which I will not discuss, that we talked about today in executive, you think that that's going to solve things? I don't think so.
There are several things that have occurred. One, there was no grounds committee functioning at the time this work was done, so it could not go to a grounds committee. There was a resignation and there was no board meeting to appoint the new liaisons to run a committee, no meetings. The same board that approved the policy signed every one of the authorizations and invoices to make the
Well,
payments.
that was just very interesting how how it was very strategic, how the invoicing occurred and how, toward the end, once probably in August or so, we had a $400,000 balance with Carson. If you don't say that that's irregular, I don't know what you're talking about,
I'm
but
not
I'm
sure.
putting it out there. Maybe I could spend some time with Tara and show her.
I don't know what $400,000 balance. We pay our bills regularly, so I'm
No,
not
we
sure.
didn't get invoices. It was very strategic. We didn't get invoices for like 5 or 6 months. So I don't know how this happened. Then suddenly we got a couple of them. The invoices I requested that were missing, I never got. And I'm supposed to get those invoices or something about them within 10 days. I never got anything, but oh geez, they showed up in
Oh,
December. I don't know, Carson, Oscar was on vacation. What more excuses do we, what else does there need to be about these
Okay, Ashley,
irregularities? You
I
can
think we
send
got
your attorney on me. I'm fine with it.
Okay, we got the point. Let me ask Betsy if there's any invoice that did not get signed or approved by any of the board members. How about that?
No, there are not.
There you have it. Okay.
And what Ashley's referring to is 2 work orders that were invoiced early this year, but the work was done last summer. And yes, Oscar was on vacation and he did not submit.
I asked for them
I didn't even have them at that point.
still.
And
Why
just-
does this keep happening? Wouldn't
It
you have
doesn't keep-
thought that you would have asked him like, hey, Oscar, we still haven't gotten an invoice for this. We still haven't gotten an invoice for all this work in January.
You realize it's just like your bank
$100,000
account. Money comes in, money goes out.
Yeah,
It's
but we're
never.
on a cash basis. And so how it was showing to us, we didn't even have a correct reserve tracker. We were dependent mostly on what had been spent to see what we had left to spend. And if we can't see that, at that time, we didn't have any pending, that was something I really pushed for. And, we were looking at saying, you have this available, you have that available, but it wasn't really what we had available because we had all this stuff stuck in pending, 400,000 stuck in pending. And, if you want to spend some time with me and see everything, I can show you everything, but it's irregular. And it was staggered. It was very, intentional in my opinion, but I don't know. I don't know
And again,
I
is
think
it
it is
still going
inten-
on? Is it?
well, people kept spending and it's,
Is
I
that-
feel,
is that
I feel like
currently
their service
occurring?
ought to pay us back
Pay us back for what?
for unauthorized. We did not authorize her for the 2,800.
We did.
Board
It
signed
was
those.
signed.
So
It
your
was
point is
signed.
moot.
Well,
There's nothing to
you
be
could
paid
say-
back for.
you
The
could
work
say it
or the
like that.
projects have been done.
Well, a lot of them weren't. And we would systematically get some before and after pictures like we were supposed to. Other ones we didn't. It was very strategic.
I've not known about before and after pictures being a requirement for
The
anything.
management report.
You know what? You're walking a very fine line, revealing.
I don't care,
No,
I
you-
have
you-
an attorney in my
you-
family.
You know, you do have to care as a board
You're
member.
walking a fine line too, Marcus. So I'll just remind you of that.
Correct.
It's off
Yeah,
light.
yes, yeah,
Okay.
that's
All
fair.
right. Well, thank you for your comment. Okay.
And your opinions are there.
This is Tara. May I say something? Okay,
Yes.
so if it's an agreement for the individuals here, and just, you would have to be able to trust that I have the ethical fortitude to be able to do this, is I'm happy to go ahead and sit and go through that and spend, I don't know, up to 20 hours of my personal time to go ahead and go through this. But what I would request is that once that is done, and I can submit my findings to the board, that it is action taken from there. The one thing that I'm hearing is that the challenges with these invoices is in the past. And my question is, are there controls in place to prevent this from going forward in the future? Let's just cut it off here and go there, because this, and I apologize that this is going on the record, but this is just becoming very challenging in trying to be able to manage this organization to the benefit of all homeowners.
Thanks,
This-
Tara. I welcome meeting with you and having you look at this.
Well, the controls is that there is no landscaping money being spent unless it's approved in a noticed meeting of the board.
All right. Okay, thank you very much. And all right. Oh,
Thank you, Tara. I think it's a great idea.
Peter. Okay. I can't see what's going on.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is Peter Lewicki. I live at 12 Colby Court. I moved to Nepenthe about 4.5 years ago. And I think maybe the timing of my comments hopefully will resonate. I'm really disturbed by the dynamics I'm watching here tonight. And I'm also disturbed by some of the correspondence that I've seen in the board packets and also coming through some emails. What is clear to me, and without going into my professional background too much, I will tell you, I've been an attorney for 15 years. I was a prosecutor for 11 of those years. I've handled all sorts of complex financial crimes. There are some real troubling hallmarks right here. And the dynamics tonight, I think, kind of prompted me to get up and say something. I want to thank all the board members, management, all the committee chairs for all the work they do. I know it's a lot of work, but something in this room is not well. And I would implore every single one of us to come together a little bit and try to think about this, because our fees are going up every year. There's utterances about special assessments. Thank God I have a job that pays well enough to afford this. I have neighbors who are not here. They don't come to board meetings because they think that they are contentious and a waste of time, but they are freaked out about the finances. I am freaked out on their behalf. And I don't know what the solution is. I don't know whether audits, financial reviews. Tara, I apologize for the third option that you mentioned, like some sort of a.
It's a specific engagement to look for fraud or other irregularities.
Yeah, and I don't know what the right answer is there. I don't know. I'm not going to sit here and try to parse out what the language in the bylaws mean, but something is not well here. And I think we should all take a deep breath, figure out what it is that makes sense. And with one goal in mind, figure out what it is that's going to take so that we do not get a special assessment and our dues to continue going up. Every single one of us is faced with inflation. Everything we do, from buying gas, groceries, and so forth, is getting more expensive. It stands to reason that maybe some of the association's businesses are going to take more money. We need to now buckle it down and spend the money appropriately. I appreciate everybody's work here, especially the board. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter.
Marcus, could I speak?
Sure. Yes, we'll.
Okay. I've been either on the board or on the finance committee for 20 years. In that time, I've never seen anybody on either who wanted to spend money. The reality of Nepenthe is as follows. The siding that was put in here, T111, the architectural design has generated continuing a major cost and a recurring cost. And it's something we're finally starting to get on top of, but it's innate in the design. Secondly, when these places were built, far more land was placed in grounds than would be today. I mean, if you buy in an association of this type today, you don't get anywhere near the grounds that we get. but those grounds generate a substantial expense year upon year. And we're not in danger of a special assessment. In fact, I keep hearing that. The reality is that we're financially in very good shape. And one of the reasons we're in very good shape is because boards have stayed on top of this. They've made mistakes along the way. But as you heard tonight, there are people who strongly assert that they aren't getting enough attention in the grounds area. And this has been happening since I've been here over 20 years, and I understand why. I mean, the grounds eat up a tremendous amount of our resources. So the driving force in here, the costs are management, grounds, and siding and roofing, and to a lesser extent, paving. And there's no conspiracy. There's no, nobody's wasting money. There are probably some projects that could be done differently and less expensively, but the reality and inevitably, the trend has been up in terms of assessments, and it's probably going to continue to go up in terms of assessments because partially Browning, when Browning came in here after the special assessment, he built a modest increase into every year to build the long-term viability of the reserves. Secondly, you've got inflation. Now, finally, we're getting a decent return on our money, but we've got over $10 million in reserves, which for an association like ours is excellent. So if people are concerned, don't understand, I suggest that they go to the reserve study and read it and see what the long-term implications are. But the worst thing that can happen is for a board to panic and suddenly decide that they're not going to come to grips with the reality. They're going to let projects go, not maintain the trees, not maintain the pavement, not maintain the siding. In the long term, you pay one way or you pay another.
I agree with you, Will. I mean, to some extent. And, part of the problem is that we have an unrealistic, well, okay, Cheryl gets to speak at homeowner comments, but I don't. So that's fine. I won't talk.
I mean, people want the ground. I mean, they want a lot out of the grounds, and the grounds are very expensive, and I recognize that. And boards can decide to do more or less in that one area. Siding and roofing, they don't have much choice.
Will, I'd like to clarify one thing. You were saying the assessments keep going up. Are you referring to the homeowner dues?
Yeah. Yeah, not the special, there's no special there's only been one special assessment in here in the history of Nepenthe. But the monthly assessments have gone up every year. On the other hand, so is the value of every house in here. You'll hear people say, I bought in here and it was, I don't know, $37 a month, and now it's, whatever. And I've never heard anybody say, I bought in here for $35,000 and somebody wants to insist on giving me $600,000 for my home, and I'm upset.
Will, I can, tell you, I'm actually involved in a situation right now. They are paying $535 a month, and they have exactly $300,000 in their reserves. I wouldn't want to be in that homeowners association. Also, I sold a house in December, $190,000 place, and their monthly dues were $860. Just to let you guys know, our dues, they may be high in our eyes, but what we get for it, this is my personal opinion. So anyway, thank you.
Well, I'm going to express my personal opinion too. So, a lot of this is a function of putting the replacement value. So we can pretty accurately place replacement, forecast replacement value. I don't say it's that accurate, but as far as like siding, roof, but we've, I think, underestimated our replacement value for landscaping in relation to what we're spending. And it's kind of created a problem child for us over the years that sort of built up. And unfortunately, it's kind of hitting us right now. And I tried to help people be a little bit more strategic, but it is what it is. But now at this point, I do feel like we've buckled down to some degree. But it is a lot of cost for us. So we don't want to let it go.
No,
Okay,
and,
actually,
and grounds are the hardest thing to estimate long-term cost on. You're absolutely right. It's a lot easier to project what pavement's going to be in 5 or 10 years than grounds. But and we've got a lot of grounds.
Yeah.
All right,
Our
well,
ongoing
Excuse me, Will,
Yes.
this is Carol Duke. I have to disagree with you on a couple of points there. I've also been here 20 years and spent 3 years on the finance committee. And I've spent the last 40 years in the finance and accounting arena in my career. And clearly, from my perspective, looking at the last year at things that happened, in specifically the grounds area, yes, there were authorizations at the invoice point. There were not authorizations at the work order point. There were processes that weren't in place and should have been in place. There have been a couple of things that have been put in place, but not to the degree we need to have processes in place. There's more to be done, and our board clearly doesn't understand what those things are. And the finance committee clearly doesn't understand what those things are. So I would suggest that, as the gentleman that got up recently said, our dues have gone up every year. And I don't think that for the last 7 or 8 years, they've gotten the clear, in-depth review before just raising them because we could, and we could do it without a vote. And I don't think that's appropriate. And we raise them and raise them and raise them without looking really, really deeply at what we're doing. So I headed up the last special assessment, which was what, I don't know, 2007, 2008, as John said earlier, and did an in-depth multi-year review of the 30-year reserve study. And we really do need some in-depth work when we're working on our budget and our reserve study. And as I said, I think our finance committee is falling short of being a true oversight committee and giving, as they should, suggestions to the board on different scenarios, presenting the board with scenario planning, and making sure that all financial processes are being followed. And without looking at the invoices on that committee, and I think in the meeting on Monday with the finance committee, I think there were 6 or 7 invoices that were in question, but it was refused that they couldn't see them for some reason. So anyway, so I think we need much more oversight in the finance area and in the grounds area, and we need processes to continually be put in place so that what happened last year does not happen again. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. Anybody else? All right, I guess meeting adjourned. Thank you very much.
And the Zoom recording of the finance committee meeting is on the NepentheHOA.com website. If anybody would like to see that, let me know.